Hello, good morning. So, on the last day of this last session, we were talking about some renewable energy technologies and why should we go for generation for renewable energies rather than conventional. The worldwide trend, what is happening in most of the other advanced and emerging economies. So, we had a very comparative discussion and few renewable technology methods or some upgradation in the conventional generations were being discussed. So gasification process was rather GTL, gas to liquefaction process was discussed in brief, and I think now we can move towards the clean coal technologies. What is the meaning of clean coal technologies? As all of us are very much familiar with the use of coal, and is still almost more than 60% of this power generation is restricted, or you can say we are very much dependent on coal or thermal power stations, in spite of having attained a kind of great stride in the development of renewable energy, but still 50 to 60% of the overall generation is being done through thermal power stations, which is dependent on fossil fuel technology. So when we use coal in the pulverized form for our thermal power station or coal fire station, there are a lot many things which are happening apart from the power generation, and this includes great amount of fly ash, as you are all aware about that, and disposal of this fly ash sometimes create a lot of problems. At the same time, the greenhouse gases are also a great concern because the burning of fossil fuels directly enhances the CO2 content in the atmosphere. Now, all these things can be somewhat reduced, and our efficiency of this energy conversion process can also be increased with the help of clean coal technologies. As the name itself suggests, we are going to obtain a kind of less carbon emission in case we switch over to clean coal technologies. So use of coal free electricity demand growth forecast to exceed supply growth. And this is happening since last century. We will always be in short of electricity as much as our needs are increasing. Immediate need to develop technology to utilize coal, and this process includes carbon capture, carbon sequestration, transformation technologies, gasification, and liquefaction. All these things can be simultaneously achieved while moving from direct combustion to all of you are aware about these terms like carbon capture, carbon sequestration, so on. We have discussed it previous. So now coal represents the cheapest and most convenient fuel to meet expected surge in electricity demand. It is readily available, and as I might have told you, or you even know that India has a huge amount of coal reserve. But the quality of Indian coal is not that much. India holds almost 108 million reserves by the estimates carried out in 2016, almost 1,800 million tons, ranking fifth in the world and accounting for about 9% of world's total coal reserve. And this is really a great reserve. A kind of proven coal reserves equivalent to 111.5 times its. I mean, this was a study carried out and or almost 110 times the annual consumption at the present rate at that time. This means it has about 110 or 11 years of coal left at current consumption levels. And that almost excludes the discovery of new, right? So the estimation has been that the coal reserves at the present consumption rate can give us almost 110 years of time, and we can utilize that coal reserve. So it was all about the kind of data that was presented. Overall, the coal reserve situation in India is good. Sometimes we also export the coal, but the quality of the coal is definitely a great concern because it contains lot amount of sulfur. Anyway, coal is undisputed leader in dirty fuel. Burning coal releases more CO2 per unit of energy than oil or natural gas. In terms of its life cycle, the mining, transportation, and burning of coal leads to major environmental and health hazards from smog, acid rain, mercury pollution in rivers, and other respiratory problems. So all kinds of pollution related things are present when we are going to use coal for our power generation. Now it is the data regarding the coal production, and if you can observe it closely that the Organization of Economically Advanced Countries, OECD, they have got constant coal production. They have not increased their dependence for energy requirement on the coal reserves. So if they have not decreased the exploitation or use of coal for their energy requirement, they have not increased it either. Whereas the Asian countries, especially China, Asian countries, Southeast Asia, India, and all, they have increased their coal production during these periods. And that is simply to increase their growth rate, or you can say they also want to have lot many things to achieve as far as their industrialization requires more and more power. Now the coal production, the same kind of thing, it has increased from 1973 level to 2011 level. And as you know that the greenhouse gases, if it is occurring in China or India or other African countries, it is going to affect the overall situation for the whole world. So the production of coal from 3041 metric tons has increased or has doubled in 2011, and likewise we are witnessing the poor situation in our environmental conditions. Coal production consumption in India, earlier it was 538 metric ton, the consumption was 628, and almost 90 metric ton was the deficit, and it was met by import. So as some of you know, that the quality of Australian coal is wonderful. It is one of the best kind of coal available in the global market. So coal is imported in order to meet our requirements. Now, what is happening when we remove the carbon dioxide? It is related to the IGCC, means the integrated gasification combined cycle. So when we use some of the technologies or clean coal technologies, it gives us a better kind of situation. Definitely, when the content or the CO2 content is reduced. From this slide, you can say that after gasification and all the cleaning up processes that we can do, actually this is a very different kind of you can say discussion when all these things are discussed in detail, but we will confine our attention to somewhat at a superficial level. We are not going deep into this. We just want to know that what are the fundamentals of the clean coal technologies or other techniques that can be combined while our power generation situation is improved. Now, CO2 capture in coal power systems, when we capture it and we go for the sequestration techniques, we go and deeply bury this CO2, and that is a time consuming as well as it requires a lot of funds also to attain that kind of expertise. Now this is going to be the improvement in the efficiency with respect to when the CO2 is reduced. 2 percentage point efficiency is shown to be increased while we adopt this kind of technique. What are the advantages that are achieved? Sulfur is removed from syngas using commercial gas processing technology, and that reduces the sulfur content from the atmosphere. NOx emissions are controlled by firing temperature modulation in the gas turbine. All these are the things that we obtain while we go for the integrated gasification combined cycle. There are other advantages. Mercury, more than 90% removed from the syngas by absorption on activated carbon bed. Water use is lower as compared to conventional coal plants. Byproduct slag is vitreous and inert and often soluble. CO2 under pressure takes less energy to remove than from flue gas at atmospheric pressure. So these are the related advantages. Now we can sum up. Energy contribution from non-renewable fossil fuels shall continue at least for next few more years. They had predicted in almost 2012-13 that it will last for 20 years. But it may go beyond that, especially in underdeveloped or developing countries, because the installation of renewable technologies sometimes is not very cost effective for these countries. They need more and more funds in order to go for renewables. And that's why uh, even at the governmental level or at private participation, they are not much inclined to go for renewables. Emphasis is on reducing emissions in the form of toxic gases and CFGs, greenhouse gases. Use of these resources is also changing from energy to non-energy applications. So these are the current situation that are estimated for near future. With all these, now we can go for non-fossil fuel energy sources. So by this time, all of us must agree that generation or electricity generation from fossil fuels is not going to be environment friendly, because if we keep on using our fossil fuel at this rate or at this consumption level, there are two things which are, or rather three things which are going to happen simultaneously. One will be these reserves are not going to last for many years, and we will be devoid of all such options. Even in essential things, we will not be able to use or had no alternative. At the same time, these fossil fuel sources are not going to provide us the huge requirement of our energy needs. They simply fail in their generation capacity if we are dependent on these kind of sources. At the third point, we can agree, all of us, I don't think have any problem, that the environment condition, the global warming, the climate change, and you can say the rising sea level, all these problems are known to be associated with higher and higher content of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. So unless we reduce our carbon footprints, the situation is very alarming in the near future. So by all these discussions, we must realize that instead of increasing our power generation by resorting to fossil fuel based sources, we should now move towards renewable energies, which are definitely a very good option. And that is basically the topic of our current subject. Now, nuclear energy does provide some option, though it is not a kind of renewable energy, but we should briefly discuss what are the pros and cons of using nuclear energy. Some countries, actually initially in the initial days, some 30 or 50 years back, it was thought that nuclear energy is going to solve the problems of energy deficit, because it has got very good potential. I mean, as far as pollution is concerned, we can contain it because fossil fuel is not utilized, and we have got a specific nuclear fuel, and that is not directly released in the atmosphere. But there are certain things very closely related with such kind of generating systems. Nuclear fission uses uranium to create energy. We all know it. Nuclear energy is a non-renewable resource because once the uranium is used, it is gone. Yes, it is a non-renewable or conventional type of system for power generation. Nuclear fuels limited amounts of uranium for nuclear fission reactors, but reprocessing of fuel is possible. Like fast breeder reactors, whatever we are using or utilizing for the nuclear process, we are able to produce a kind of fuel that can be utilized for our generation process at the same time. So that is the concept of fast breeder reactor. You must have gone through it, I think, in your conventional energy sources course last year. Difficult to estimate how long these fuels will last, but is it sustainable economically or environmentally? So I can tell you that environmentalists, they are not in favor of nuclear energy because of the risks, different type of risks associated with this kind of power generation. With nuclear power, huge amounts of power can be produced from a small amount of uranium, no doubt, but it produces radioactive waste, and that is dangerous to health and life for hundreds of years. We have already seen it, the explosion of nuclear bombs that were done in the Second World War. There is no secure place for storage. Public confidence has been shattered by the explosion at Chernobyl in 1986 and disaster at Fukushima, Japan, March 2011. These are the two major nuclear disasters that have occurred. 86 in 86 Chernobyl at USSR, and thereafter in 2011 it happened in Japan. In the 86 disaster at Chernobyl, many people were trapped. So the hazards are related to fire, earthquake at the plant, cost and lead time for construction of nuclear power plant also is a disadvantage. Shortage of skilled labor, disposal of radioactive nuclear waste. This causes great concern. Earlier it was done at the sea, deep inside the sea, but the marine life for such kind of disposal. So the disposal of radioactive used nuclear waste is going to give us many problems. This is a picture which shows the explosion at Chernobyl in 1986. You can see from this photograph that it was very devastating and it was a great accident, industrial accident that occurred in the USSR. So in India and elsewhere also, the dependence on nuclear fuel has not been very encouraging as it was thought to be in earlier stages. So rather we have attention from nuclear to other renewables. Now renewable energy sources are natural sources that can be replenished in a short period of time. Hence, they can last as long as we are surviving on Earth, like sun, wind, and all. And what are these sources? If it is solar, geothermal, wind, biomass, hydro, MHD also. And we discussion on all these renewables. Renewable energy sources are being replaced, generated at the same rate, realized, as they will last indefinitely. Wind, solar, geothermal, etc. can play a supplementary useful role, but will not replace fossil fuels in next 2 decades. That's very true. In case of biomass, cycle of sunlight, photosynthesis, plant growth, absorption of CO2, emission of O2, all these are the processes. Combustion of wood to heat. Some plants, they can give us alcohol also. Still people are coming. Decomposition, by this process we get methane or landfill gas, fuel for heating, all these things can happen. These are the associated advantages related to biomass apart from electricity generation. It can deliver energy in all forms, solid, gas and liquid for application as heat, electricity, transportation. Gasifier produces fuel at much lower cost. Energy security, poverty reduction, positive environment effects, carbon dioxide neutral, restoration of degraded land, water retention, etc. So all these things can be achieved. Separate topic of discussion in later units. And what are the sources? Clean wood chips, urban wood residues, dry contaminated with other materials, residues, animal residues, organic component of municipal solid waste. In Bareilly also, there was a plant, solid waste plant installed, which functioned for a few days, I think, not for a few months, and somehow it could not be restarted. So, and this gives a very good option for the city problems. All the garbage, municipal garbage in liquid or in solid form can be utilized in case of power generating system. It not only gives space, clean space in terms of landfills that are used for garbage storage. Now this is a pictorial representation of biomass sources. Primarily it comes from the forest. It can also come from plant and animal waste. Wood and waste can be found virtually everywhere. Only the transportation cost is entailed for this kind of reconversion. We need to pay for the transportation cost because it has to be collected at the central plant, and this collection has to be very much efficient in order to run our biomass conversion. Now the kind of gasification, different type of gasification processes, it is drying, pyrolysis, combustion and reduction. Thereafter we go for the or obtaining the kind of energy out of this process. Environmental advantages, renewable source, reduces landfills, protects clean water supplies, reduces acid rain and smog, reduces greenhouse gases. Now these are the something which are the some cons or disadvantages. We will have a detailed discussion on biomass. So for the time being, we can skip it. Yeah, solar power. Solar energy applies energy from the sun in the form of solar radiation for heat or to generate electricity. Solar powered electricity generation uses either photovoltaic or heat engines. It can have basically two types of energy conversion process: solar thermal or photovoltaic. In case of photovoltaics, solar cells convert light into a small electrical output. Need a bank array of cells for useful output. Cost of cell is high but reducing. That is the main feature. Efficiency of the cells are improving. And we are in the process of increasing our solar capacity. Solar panels can be installed on rooftops. They can absorb heat in the form of radiation from sun. Systems like domestic central heating, radiator, all these things can be arranged with this. Provides topping up of domestic hot water. We can use solar thermal. Yeah, these are the different pictures related to solar roof tiles, which can be fixed on the roof. We have different panels, roof mounted. Now, solar power generation, it can be located or established in the areas where the radiation or sun intensity is high. At the same time, they are not much used for agriculture activity. So desert areas are the ideal in the establishment of solar power generation. Parabolic mirrors reflect focus sun's rays into metal water pipes located along focal axis of mirrors. High temperature produced steam electrical power can be generated. Largest capacity, yes, the largest capacity solar power plant in India or anywhere, it is 2250 megawatt of power in Bhadla village at Jodhpur. You know, India stands very high in terms of solar. I think it is at number 2 or 3. I don't exactly have the figure right now. In terms of solar power production across its plants, it currently accounts for about 40% or more of its total capacity to renewables, including hydro. And you might be aware of that India's national solar mission was launched in 2010, a time when just 10 megawatt of solar power was installed. So almost a decade back, when only 10 megawatt power generation was done, we had initiated the National Solar Mission in the year 2010. And it was initiated with a target of 20 gigawatt for the end of the decade. And now, by 2022, we have a target of 100 gigawatt only through the solar power installation. So the total overall renewable 175 gigawatt, and out of that 100 gigawatt of solar power capacity is targeted by the year 2022, and that amounts to 100 gigawatt. Now, if I can tell you about the top 5 solar power plants in India. So as we all see that it is Bhadla Solar Park. It is situated in the border areas of Jodhpur and Barmer area in Rajasthan, which is a desert almost. And the total power generation capacity is 2,250 megawatts. So it is the largest for the, not only for the India, but for the world also. Spanning across 14,000 acres of land. 14,000 acres. And this huge solar power plant was developed by multiple agencies such as Rajasthan Solar Park Development Company, Saurya Urja Company, joint venture of Government of Rajasthan, and Adani Renewable Energy. And the second plant which comes after this Jodhpur plant is Shakti Sthal Solar Power Project. It was commissioned in the year 2019 with an installed capacity of 2,050 megawatt. And it is situated in Pavgada Taluk, Tumakuru district, Karnataka. It is now the second largest solar power plant in India after Rajasthan's Bhadla. And it is spread or spans more than 13,000 acres of land. The total cost for the establishment was around 15,000 crore. And this is situated in a kind of land which is not very attractive to farmers. I mean, it is semi-arid where very little rainfall is achieved. So such type of locations for mega solar parks are very ideal because it requires huge amount of area. The third comes Ultra Mega Solar Park. It is situated in Oravakal, Kurnool district, Andhra Pradesh, and the capacity is 1,000 megawatt. It is in Andhra Pradesh. And very recently, if you can recall, our Honorable Prime Minister has inaugurated somewhere in Madhya Pradesh, and that is the Riva solar power project. I think very recently it was inaugurated, most probably in the month of May, I think. It is Madhya Pradesh. It is situated in Madhya Pradesh. 750 megawatt Riva solar thermal power project. It is spread over an area of 1,600 acres and is operated by Riva Ultra Mega Solar Limited. It was developed by Mahindra Renewables. And it has been planned that this solar power station or power project will supply its power to Delhi Metro. Now, this is India's first and only solar project until now to be funded from the Clean Technology Fund. Clean Technology Fund has been created by the government, and also India's only solar power plant to obtain a concessional loan from the World Bank's International Finance Corporation. It was established in a very short period of time. I think prior to the time when it was projected. So these are, and there is another solar plant in Ramanathapuram district of southern state of Tamil Nadu. It is a again established by Adani Group, and this has a total installed capacity of 648 megawatt. So the overall situation of our country in solar installation is very encouraging, and India has got very huge capacity as far as solar generation is concerned. There comes wind turbines, the wind technologies, which are also very promising in case of renewables. Wind power turbines produce electric power between 1/4 and 2 megawatt per turbine. I mean, one single turbine, as you see in the diagram, in the slide, can give us 2 megawatt of power. Such is the capacity of these huge wind turbines. Wind farm needs to be located where there is relatively high average wind speed, widely used in Europe, Asia, and the US. Worldwide installed capacity of 248 or almost 283 gigawatt, and this data refers to 2012, must be nearly around, I think, 500 gigawatt by this time. Annual growth rate is projected at 30% in the early decade, past decade. Now, what are the best location for wind turbines? It has been said that offshore locations are, as we can have very good wind speeds in those regions, larger average wind speed than onshore, yes, easier planning consent, technical expertise exists from oil rig experience, suitable location. It is not going to create any kind of right-of-way problems related to the huge structure of wind turbines. Thereafter, we have the hydroelectric power generation, currently largest source of electricity from renewables, yes, because they have been in operation for so many years in the past. It needs guaranteed supply of water. Kinetic energy of water rotates turbines, which generates electricity. It is the most widely used form of renewable energy, accounting for 16% of global electricity generation, as per the data available in 2010. Then comes tidal power, located at some coastal sites, usually estuaries and bays with large tidal range. Shape of coastal site available determines the range. At high tide, reservoir of water is created, which is allowed to ebb through turbines located in dam. So depending upon the lunar cycle, high tides are created, and that change in the flow of water is utilized to run the turbines. The construction is definitely somewhat costly as compared to other power plants, but definitely it is a alternative, and many tidal power plants have been installed worldwide. Then there is wave power. This is also one of the ways of the renewable energy to be generated. Then comes geothermal. Geothermal energy is from thermal energy generated and stored in the earth. The heat that is used for geothermal within the earth, all the way down to Earth's core. The world's largest geothermal power installation is the geysers in California. They are known as geysers because hot water is coming out of these locations with a rated capacity of 750 megawatts. 2012. So we can summarize discussion related to renewables. It is the energy that comes from resources which are continually replenished, such as sunlight, wind, tides, waves, and geothermal. About 16% of global final energy consumption comes from renewable sources. And that figure is rising. Maybe at this time, it might be more than 20%. With 10% of all energy from traditional biomass, mainly used for heating, and 3.5% almost from hydropower. New renewables, small hydro, modern biomass, wind, solar, geothermal, and biofuels accounted for more than 3% and are growing very rapidly. The share of renewables in electricity generation is around 90. And I have told you that this figure must be greater, reaching to almost 25 or 24%, with 16% of electricity coming from hydro and 3% or rather more from other renewables. Now, this was related to our discussion. It gave us a kind of broad overview related to what has to come in coming days. So it provides us a brief outline of our discussion that will follow on different type of renewable technologies. So it was a kind of precursor of our non-conventional energy sources that we are supposed to learn and know that what kinds of development are happening in our country or elsewhere. So I hope must have some basic idea that what is the present state of situation in case of renewables with respect to global perspective, and at things occurring indigenously in our own country, where India stands in terms of solar. The situation in terms of solar energy is very encouraging. But the problem lies elsewhere, that it has not been very competitive in price terms related to the cost effectiveness of establishing and generating the power. I mean, the grid parity comes after certain period of time, and that is definitely slowly coming down in terms of years or in terms of time period. And in the coming days, the situation is bound to improve